Nu sticker mustangerna iväg här.
Vad gör de?
Ja, de är på andra sidan. Lilla ridgen. Nu sticker de över planen där borta. Och det dammar om hingstarna och mustangerna och de donar fram över öknen.
It wasn't anything because of religion or politics or anything else. But the second boy was in school, and his mother took him out because she felt that he told the teacher, he said that work is too hard and I don't understand it. So she didn't give him any, she just said, okay, then you don't have to do the hard work. And so his mother said, you do have to do the hard work. So she brought him home and put him and started teaching him homeschooling, or started homeschooling him. And the reason we found out that he had a form of dyslexia, which did make it difficult, but I don't know that they didn't discover it in the school. It was something that we found out at home. We found out that he was having problems, but the teacher wasn't doing anything to make him work. I mean, he said, okay, it's hard, so she just gave him something that wasn't hard, and that made her, by giving him work that wasn't hard, he got A's. Of course, he was behind everybody his own age. Yeah. So we brought him home, or his mother brought him home and started homeschooling him, and he graduated went a year or two of college and decided that wasn't for him, but at least he did graduate. Yeah. and he can read and write, and I'm not sure if he'd have stayed in school if he would have been able to. They didn't think it was important enough to push him, or at least they didn't think that they didn't recognize that there was a problem. And,
Hi, Sam.
Yeah.
Oh.
What are you doing?
Oh.
Yeah. They send it out here and then they take it to the bank.
Yeah. It's kind of natural that your kids should have homeschooling because there are no schools nearby. But is that the only reason? I mean, you being far away from nearby schools, or are there other reasons for homeschooling in your mind?
Well, in some cases there are. Our middle son we homeschooled because he had a learning problem. Mm-hmm. And the older one we homeschooled because we lived out. And when we live where they can go to public school, if they choose, they can go to public school.
Mm-hmm. So
if they choose not to, they don't have to. As far as the education goes, the internet is better than the books. And to me, for my children, it's better than being in school. They don't have any peer pressure. They do their curriculum, they do their schoolwork, and they're done, and they can go do what they want. It would be nicer if we had a few more children in this area, but there just aren't any. We did have 7 children that lived down at the Aloha Ranch for a while, and that was kind of fun. They'd ride horses back and forth and visit, and they did homeschool also. But there's a bird in the chimney. I was going to get his fishing net and catch it, unless you can catch it.
Okay.
Welcome to the country.
Yeah, here's a bird. That's the one. You know, we're in the country, and I let you out, birdie.
That's hilarious.
I'm glad you came out. Yeah.
Our house is so abnormal.
No more chimney.
This is wild country, and we have wild animals.
Mm. So, when it comes to peer pressure, because that's interesting, I think. What would you say is characteristic of a child? I mean, no matter what their different ways of learning is and so on, when they have been spared peer pressure, do you think there is anything characteristic of the way they perceive themselves? Do you see what I mean?
Oh, yes, I do. I think they take a little hit at first, but it's not a major long term. At first, they're kind of, when our oldest boy went to school, we didn't get in town to shop for him before he went to public school, and his Levi's were a little short. He was also growing, and I bought him some new Levi's, and I never thought about peer pressure at that point until he put on his new Levi's, and he says, gee, now the kids won't make fun of my short pants. But that was a minor thing.
Yeah.
You know, to him it was like, oh, they said it, but that's okay. You know, this is what I have, and this is the way I am. And if you don't like me, okay. You know, I don't have to belong to your group. Doing things in groups is generally a little harder for them. It's hard to be a group type person because they've never learned to play basketball with a team. What we use as a team is the family, and that helps. That helps. But they do feel some peer pressure, but it doesn't take on the importance that it seems to when they start as young children with it. It's something that, well, people don't like this about me, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
I can handle this.
Yeah.
I know who I am. I'm Buck or Jed or Sam or whoever, and this is what I think. These are my opinions, and if people don't like it, that's okay. Everybody can have a difference of opinion, and they don't feel that need to belong.
And
That need to put in the eyebrow rings and the nose rings, and you know, it's like, okay. We took our oldest son to a youth conference, and we dropped him off at church, and he was going with the kids in the church group. There were about 20 of them, and all the boys were in slacks and white shirts and ties and, you know, sports coats, and our son had on his western coat and his cowboy hat. He's like 15, 16 years old, and I said, when I looked around, I said, do you want to leave your hat in the car? I would have left the hat if I had been the teenager. I would have, you know, I wouldn't want it to have been different. And he said, gee, no, I wear my hat all the time. You know, he
And
was
he did?
comfortable, and he did.
what happened? I mean,
Somebody said, oh, you're wearing your hat, that's a nice hat. And that was about all that was said about it.
isn't it?
But
so
it didn't
that-
bother
yeah,
him that
yeah,
he was
yeah.
different.
But-
And we've also taught him that, well, because of our oldest son being in this gifted children's program, they had a psychologist come in. And she says, when is being gifted an asset and when is it a curse? And she had a picture of a pianist. And the first picture he was playing and notes are flying off the piano. And the second picture he held up his hands and he had 10 fingers on each hand. And she says, it's great if you're playing music, however, if you're buying gloves, it's a little hard. She says, sometimes things that are different are not necessarily good, even being talented in a certain area. And they helped us understand that and teach our children that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be a straight A student because some kids are smart and other kids make fun of them because they're not smart, so they goof off in class so they don't get quite the grades they should. And or if they get in with the wrong crowd, heaven forbid, they have to be the worst of the worst. But it helped us teach them that it's okay to be you, and it's okay to not follow the crowd. You can just be yourself in whatever situation you're in. And when they went to public school, a lot of kids didn't understand that you want to go by yourself and read a book. You know, it didn't make any sense to them because they were always doing everything with their friends and stuff, where the boys that were raised out are perfectly content with their own company. And I think that's really important, even for adults, to learn to be content with their own company.
Yeah.
Because when I got married, I wasn't, and we lived out here, and it was really hard. I had to learn. It wasn't fun. But I think they actually learn a lot more. They'll learn to deal with people on a smaller basis, and that helps them. But the things that they do learn are to be content with themselves and to know what they're about, and that it's okay to be themselves, whichever way they want to be.
I went to 2 schools in Utah, and 1 in Montana and 1 in southern Nevada. And other than that, I've been homeschooled the rest of my life. I did kindergarten through 3rd grade, or through 4th grade, and 6th grade in public schools, and I've done the rest in home.
All right. Now, so you have yeah, that's interesting because you can compare the two. So it would be interesting to find out what you think of the two. What do you say? I mean, to put it bluntly, which one do you prefer?
Most kids that like to be around other people prefer public schools, but the kids that have a hard time with their schoolwork, it's easier for them for homeschool because then they can get, their parents can help them with all the schoolwork that they need. And with public schools, they demand that everybody, in most schools I went to, they demand that everybody keeps on the same basis of speed. So if everybody's on like page 36 and nobody advances to page 37 until everybody's done with page 36.
So what do you think about that?
And it slows some kids down because the class can only go as fast as the slowest student. And with homeschool, it allows you to move at your own pace so that if you're a straight A student, you can get your schoolwork done really fast. You can get done with a year's worth of work and start on the next year and progress until you graduate from high school. And for the kids that need a little bit more attention, they can get it with this program. I've got a link so that if I send a letter to the principal's secretary up in McDermott, she can take and get one of the teachers there to come and write a letter back to me on the problem. So if I've got a math problem, I write her the problem, and then she prints it out, takes it to the math teacher, and the math teacher gets on the computer and clicks that up and emails it back to me.
So that works pretty fine for you, right? Yeah, as far as kids your own age.
There's the occasional visitor, but not very often.
No, right. So do you miss that? I mean, not being around other kids?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I guess.
There's times that I do miss it, and then there's times like when I have to do a subject that's really, really hard for me. I'm glad that I'm out here because then my mom can sit down and help me, or the teachers that I email can help me, and I can get all the help that I need, and they don't have to stop and run over and help somebody else. So it basically helps me a lot more than it would in public school.
You know, when you go out Homeschooling,
It usually ranges between 4 and 5 hours.
4 and 5 hours? How long? How many? What is the distance that you cover in the?
I can cover anywhere from a mile to about 20 miles.
20 miles. Okay. Yeah. In one
day.
Yeah, in one day. Right.
You mentioned that all 3 boys were different. The oldest boy graduated on his SAT test to go into college. He was in the top 2% of the nation. The second boy, it was all we could do to get him through high school. So you had 2 extremes, you know. And then Sam kind of falls in the middle. Sam is a good solid B student, you know. He doesn't have to, he has to work at it to get the B's. He gets an A now and then, and he gets a C now and then. But none of it come easy. And the oldest boy, everything came easy to him. And because everything came easy to him in school, I think that he had a more difficult time when he got to college. He never really, even in homeschooling, as much as we pushed him, he never reached his maximum potential, you know, because even at homeschooling, if you're between this point and this point, then the reward that we gave him was that you don't have, you know, okay, if you can get this done, then you don't have to go on, which is not the way it should. We should have done something different. But you know, you live and you learn. I told you the other day, in 8,000 square miles out here, there's 18 people. There is no social life for a child. All 3 of our boys grew up. They never talked baby talk. They grew up with started out with 3-syllable vocabularies, you know. But we recognized after we saw the oldest one and the middle one that things that we saw that we didn't want to have Sam have to have problems with, and because of that we've tried to work around it. Before, we didn't know it was a problem. The oldest boy was real smart and he got along great with adults, so therefore he'll get along great with children. Well, the second one came along, and because he had never been around anybody his own age, when he did finally when he was finally put in an environment where he had teenagers to deal with, when they teased him, it was automatically something that you would get into a fight about. It wasn't, you know, you didn't just laugh it off like you would learn to do normally. So what we've done with Sam is that every opportunity we get, his mother takes him to church in town and with the youth groups in there. Last week, one of the church youth groups went to Reno for some reason, and so she hauled him down to Reno. He's got a little friend in there, a girl, not a girlfriend, but a friend who is a girl, and every time they go to town, they go out and they go to the movies, and when she's out here, they go hunting and stuff like that, and they have a good time, and there's no. One of the things that, you know, that nobody's ever brought up about this homeschooling that I noticed with all 3 of our boys is not one of them knows what peer pressure is. They have no conception of what it is to have to dress a certain way, or comb your hair a certain way, or wear an earring in your nose or something like that. And it's not because we've taught them anything. They've never been around people. You know, they go to town and they see people, and they don't look down on them. They just, you know, he sure dresses different, or that group dresses different. If they want to wear raggedy clothes, they wear raggedy clothes. If they want to wear nice clothes, they wear nice clothes. But they don't feel that because they're going to go to town, they have to wear a certain style or a certain, they don't have to meet a dress code of any kind. Something else that I've noticed with all 3 of our boys that I don't know if it's normal or if it's just because of they were raised, but all 3 of our boys have no conception of what it is to lie, you know, about anything. I mean, and I don't know if you know, I don't know if lying is something that you learn to get along with a group, you know, tell people how good you are, how bad you are, what you can do, what you can't do. If you ask Sam if he can do something, if he can do it, he tells you yes. If he can't do it, he tells you no. If you ask him if he did something and he knows you're going to be upset with him, he also knows that you're going to be upset with him because he didn't get it done, not because because he did it wrong. There's nothing, and I don't know that this is a homeschooling trait or if this is something to do with the family. But I know that when I was in high school, not just everybody would tell lies about how fast their car was or how many girls they chased around the night before, or something like that. And I don't think that any one of our boys have ever had to come up with any. I mean, all 3 of them, what's the old saying, what you see is what you get, you know, and they're just as open, you know, if you ask them a question, they'll tell you. If you don't like the answer, that's your problem. So.